Lorentz, a great physicist that everybody loved, entered a paper in 1904 where he was continually explaining the ether the same way that Maxwell, all of his theories came off of there being an ether, but he was still limited by Newtonian laws and the Coulomb force of opposites attracting. When it's the positive, it's the things that are alike that attract. But he believed that the ether was still and space was flat. Einstein relativity came as a result of them taking the ether away. And for 100 years, we've walked down this particle physics world that's all theoretical. And here I've patented these wave conjugations. That is the ether, is the contraction of the ether and the expansion.
Hey, I'm going to my supervisor. I'm telling you, as soon as I get my check, I'm like, hey, 1 times 1 is 3. This ain't adding up.
In this valley, the buildings turned to glass. The sand turned to glass, and the bodies are still laying in the street right now today, holding hands, never been scavenged by animals. So things like teleportation are going to be possible in the near future. We've already teleported, I think, a couple of particles from Earth to the space station, right? But what's stopping us from teleporting a human being?
This is out there, y'all. I'm just going to say that. This is out there. Out there, out there, out there, outlandishly out there.
You guys better lock in and buckle up because you're in for another creepy video. Before we do anything, smash that like button. If you're watching this on your TV, grab your phone, type in Jet Ski Chuck, and smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Because you're in for another creepy video. I'm Jet Ski Chuck, and on these creepy waters, you want to keep your head on the straight. Swivel, hyper mode, activate. How you using?
My people, what you're seeing is Terrence Howard's working model of his virtual reality patent, live in action, made over 9 years ago, because this is when he posted it. In 2015, said that there's enough energy in here, 1.21 gigawatts, to be able to time travel back to 1955. Now in this clip, we have another one of Terrence Howard's inventions, which he calls the linchpin, as you can see, right above me. Now this has a propulsion system that doesn't give off any heat or sound. Doesn't that sound familiar? Kind of like the UFOs that they describe of today. And it can even change directions and flip over without losing speed and disappear in the snap of a finger. Now as you can see, someone called Terrence Howard's inventions futuristic, but I'm a firm believer that there's nothing new under the sun. And anything you can think of has already been done. It's just that we are now remembering. Enter the new age, baby. New sun. We getting all of our information back. Shout out to my ancestors, because I know ancient technology when I see it. Leave in the comments below. Peace and one love. My people, what you're seeing is Terrence Howard's work.
Technology 8 years ago. He released this 8 years ago? What? I haven't even seen the podcast that he was on, Joe Rogan. I haven't even seen the podcast. Now they got y'all boy Billy on the podcast. We got to dive into this. You know we got to type it in. See what's going on.
Table is laid out. The periodic table.
Rebuild the periodic table. What do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the periodic table they have now.
Let's see.
It looks like a box. It looks like a straight box. But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
Look at that stuff.
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E, 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt, and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create.
It's beautiful.
Their color. Like you can turn color back into sound based upon, it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long.
And he's not
or
wrong.
much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2, and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to Mendeleev's periodic table, and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
And you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and I knew.
I think it was
the
Akashic
saw
Records.
This in dreams.
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand. The first wrap, it's so tight. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex. You'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium. They're all bonded. They're all sit as the middle point between two noble gases. So those things don't really exist. It's only one substance. Now the problem is, the first thing that we're able to perceive is hydrogen. That's the first visible element, because before it is too dense for us to perceive it.
Toroidal field right there.
As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone, because the carbon has 2 tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves, lithium is contractive, beryllium is contractive, boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. Gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4. So it's a double tone. Nitrogen is -3, oxygen is -2, fluorine is -1. Now the balance of this, all of those are mates. Fluorine and lithium naturally mate. If you have lithium bonded with any other element, the moment that fluorine is introduced, it will break all bonds violently so it can bond with fluorine. Same thing with beryllium and oxygen. That's why it said, and what they've tried to keep from us, if you want to break water into its component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, all you have to do is introduce beryllium or the sound of beryllium, and oxygen will violently break away from any other thing, even hydrogen, to bond with that beryllium.
You say rebuild the periodic table. What do you mean specifically?
Well, the way periodic table.
Submersible, activate. We're officially in Dark Waters 9 now. The sound frequencies added to the periodic table created this winding effect. What? He's seen this before at a young age at a palace. What? Oh, this is going to be a good episode. We're diving deep into all of this. What was the palace he was talking about?
Are you familiar with Khalil Gibran?
Yes.
He wrote a book. He wrote The Prophet, 1923, but he wrote another book called Sand and Foam. In that book, he told a story of a man who had been away from his family for 4 months working, and he was excited to come home. And as he was coming home, he knew that the mountain, when he saw the mountain, he was close to home. So his 5 senses started having a conversation, and his eyes says, I see a mountain, I see a mountain, I see a mountain. And so the ears perked out and said, I don't hear a mountain. The nose sniffed and said, I don't smell a mountain. The tongue tasted the air. I don't taste a mountain. And the other 4 senses started speaking among themselves, and they came to the conclusion that there must be something the matter with the eye, because they couldn't perceive it. But all of these things, we've been misled just because we've been fooled by our senses. Our eyes see 0.05% of the entire electromagnetic wave. We're blind cosmically, but we judge everything by what we see. And they've done that with science for so many years. You look at E = mc². That talks about expansion. It does not show how it's divided. You've never breathed in twice without breathing out. You breathe in and you breathe out. You charge and you discharge. So how is it that the breathing in, they're acting as if the universe is just expanding out, breathing out, and it's going to dissipate out, and they never include the contractive side of it, breathing in. Are you familiar with Khalil Gibran?
Yes.
He wrote, how is it that multiplication, if it means to make more and increase in number, how is 1 times 1 equaling 1 part of the multiplication table? Now, I understand that if you're seeing it one time,
Right.
but we call that once. But the moment that you had that add the times in there, that multiplicative indicator, that means there's more than one. So now each equation is supposed to be balanced. You know, that equal sign is supposed to show that there's a balance between these two numbers over here and a balance on this one over here. What happened to the other one in this equation? Under what conditions it said it's illogical, where the square root of a number added to itself will equal more than that number squared? That's what happens with the square root of 2. That's what happens with most of the numbers. How is it that multiplication, if it means to make more?
Next time I see my supervisor, I'm going to hit him with that same thing, Terrence. All right? As soon as I see my supervisor, I'm like, all right, you know, I understand the 1 plus the 1. I can get that. But this times here. See, my check is a little, no, I'm just kidding, y'all. For entertainment purposes only. This entire video is for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research on everything. But yeah, I'm going to my supervisor. Yeah, I understand the 1, seeing it once. But that multiplier, we're missing a couple digits here.
Man, don't turn my phone off. Don't do that. Every time I get ready, well, because I know they're watching me right now, and they're mad at me.
Who's they?
The politicians and the authorities that give the politicians their accreditation.
You think they fuck with your phone?
Oh, I'm sure of it, because now I have to turn it off for a
Do you ever
second.
drop your phone? You ever drop your phone?
I've dropped my phone a number of times, but...
You ever think that might be what's going on with your phone?
And then I buy another phone, and the same thing happens. I'm 5
you get
minutes...
burners?
I'm sorry, but I just used to seeing Terrence Howard on all these movies. And this is genuinely who he is. Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting it, but it just came across to like, this is what we're watching now is who he really is. He looked at me and said, I've dropped my phone a number of times. I get the point that you're coming to. That's funny.
And the same thing happens. I'm 5
You get
minutes...
burners?
I used to, but then my wife would think I was cheating.
I'm having a computer freak out again.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's every time I'm shrinking this video, it's just like it doesn't like to do this.
Huh?
I don't know what's going on.
Fascinating.
Is it the codec?
I don't.
Gang stalking.
Like I have no control over the computer. Alt tab does nothing. Escape does nothing.
Yo.
Spacebar does nothing.
Maybe you dropped your computer.
Maybe you drop your computer, Jamie.
I'm gonna try to.
But Jamie, you need a burner computer. You
Yeah.
have
Has this ever happened to you before?
No.
Fascinating.
Yeah, if you want to be paranoid.
I'm not paranoid.
I am.
I'm a bit of a skeptic. I'm a realist. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. If this has never happened before and it's always happening to me, maybe I'm just bad luck. Man, God took dirt and blew into it the breath of life, and it came to life. But if you look at the Brownian effect, what is breathing? Going from positive to negative. And they see all these, even the plastic that makes these things up are still going from, it's still carbon, polarizing from positive to negative, breathing in, breathing out. It's just under a different state of matter, but there is no death. There's no death. Everything's eternal. And once we get rid of the idea, okay, you're going to die and disappear, then they don't have any grasp over you anymore. And to be free, the truth will set you free. That's why I was like, okay, well, if this truth caused me this lifetime, then wonderful, I've accomplished what I needed to do. Because I think in the previous lifetime, I was supposed to do these things and I didn't. And that's why it's been so hard for me. And that's why I've pushed so hard to get these things out because
So you felt like that, like from the womb?
From the womb, I had to get this done.
So you felt like you had these things that you didn't get out in a previous lifetime, and now you feel like an unstoppable urge.
I have to at all costs. God took dirt.
Yeah, I don't know about that last one. That's why I tell y'all to keep y'all head on a swivel. Once it's over. Unless you can make it into the kingdom, is my personal beliefs. Because if you look in the book of Acts, I remember Stephen, after he said what he said, he fell asleep.
Okay, so everyone is talking about this Terrence Howard, Joe Rogan interview. And I'm not gonna lie, it blew me away. But I was also a little skeptical because I've heard a lot of really good talkers in my life. And I thought maybe he's just knows what he's talking about. Nah, this dude is a genius. Look at this. Okay, so Terrence Howard once held a patent called the World of Windows, which you might have heard in the interview. According to Howard, this patent serves as the cornerstone for many major companies, aka VR headsets. But you guys, he abandoned the patent. His patent, the World of Windows, ended up bringing in over $7 trillion. That's right, trillion. You don't believe me? Look, there it is. Terrence Deshaun Howard. Look it up. That's his real name. And he filed the patent and abandoned it. I mean, take a look at some of these pictures that he made in his patent. I mean, it's crazy. He had literally, I wouldn't say invented, but was very close to inventing VR. I mean, it's insanity. I mean, the way his mind is unbelievable. Like, I'm not joking around when I say this dude needs to be protected at all costs. I mean, he is debunking modern day physics. Very impressive, very intelligent guy.
Dang, he almost invented VR? That's huge.
This is a working model of Terrence Howard's virtual reality patent that uses the oldest intelligent design known to man. The flower of life, except in his work, he goes far beyond what anyone has been able to achieve. Terrence Howard stated in a recent interview with Joe Rogan that what you see spinning in front of you is not only the key to unlocking fourth dimension parallels, but also the ability to time travel. Although the claims sound far-fetched, it's understandable to be skeptical. But did you know much of the artificial intelligence and virtual reality technology started from his patents? Companies such as Amazon, Microsoft, Sony, and many others all admit they utilized aspects of Howard's patent when developing their virtual reality and artificial intelligence platforms. Yet despite all this, Terrence has yet to see a penny from these tech giants. He filed his patent under his full name, Terrence Dashan Howard, and his patent can be easily found online, which has all been referenced by the big tech companies I just mentioned. The World of Windows patent has been sourced and generated over $7 trillion in revenue, far outstripping Marvel Studios' estimated net worth of approximately $29 billion. Sadly, Howard noted that none of his family have benefited financially from it, despite this huge sum being generated annually, and thus potentially creating an enormous fortune that could have made their lives much easier in later life. And here's the cliffhanger. Terrence states that none of the big tech companies are even using the technology the right way. What do you think? Did these companies wake up a sleeping giant? After all, Terrence Howard has kept his genius and knowledge a secret for many years.
He literally is trying to be Iron Man, isn't he? He then took the role of being War Machine and said, look, I'm trying to be Iron Man in real life. We got Tony Stark in real life going crazy.
But I want to show you Linchpin now. Here I'm an Oscar-nominated actor that is known all around the world, face recognition, vocal recognition, all around the world. I've invented a new form of flight, tangential flight, the ability to fly around your own center of mass, something they've never been able to do. And you don't hear anything about it. It means right now, fixed-wing aircraft, you can go in 4 degrees of direction. They go up, down, some can go forwards and backward, backwards and right to left. But this is able to spin around its own center of mass. Completely spin around its own center of mass, something people are able to do it by falling, but this is a sustained system. Because this is the geometry of hydrogen, any bond that hydrogen can make, Linchpin can make, and what they're basically doing is building the periodic table in front of you, and they're all following this queen as a colony, and they'll do everything that she's doing. This is 4 of them that's going to come together to pick up a barrel.
And what's powering them?
Right now, we're going to use hydrogen fuel cells. But I have another system, that I was going to talk about in a second. But it's an unlimited source of power. But,
so hydrogen fuel cells,
or you can use lithium batteries.
And how are they moving? Are those like propellers?
Yeah, those are props. But But that right there, what we have right there is a collective pitch. So instead of the props having to turn themselves around, instead of all the props having to turn themselves around to stop and turn in the opposite direction,
like a helicopter,
they just switch the direction. So it's a collective pitch, and it changes. And so now, instead of going up, you're going down. But now 5 of them will come together and watch what the 5 does with. So this is the end of cranes. This is and how many is necessary, and they can, since this is the fractal, they can be as small as a nanoparticle, or they can be as large as the universe, because the entire universe comes down to this. But I want to show you Linchpin now. Here I'm an Oscar-nominated actor.
Are you kidding me? What is going on? They could use those. That makes so much sense. Cranes are difficult. That would be way better if they could pull off building structures like this. Wow, that would be a game changer. Guys, are you still with me? Hit the like button and jump in the comments. I'm starting to think I'm not giving this dude enough credit at this point. Are y'all with me? What's going on?
Lorentz, a great physicist that everybody loved, entered a paper in 1904 where he was continually explaining the ether the same way that Maxwell, all of his theories came off of there being an ether, but he was still limited by Newtonian laws and the Coulomb force of opposites attracting. When it's the positive, it's the things that are alike that attract, but he believed that the ether was still and space was flat. Einstein relativity came as a result of them taking the ether away. And for 100 years, we've walked down this particle physics world that's all theoretical. And here I've patented these wave conjugations. That is the ether, is the contraction of the ether and the expansion of it. And on top of that, the proof of it was I've been able to build new industries. mysteries from it. And so now what I would love to do is invite Neil deGrasse and David Tong, or any astrophysicist, any chemist, anyone in any field of science, to sit down with me and examine these patents, examine the supersymmetrical systems that I've developed. Lorenz,
He is trying to get off in the ether now. Hydrogen technology. Now, I wouldn't be shocked on this next video if he mentions mercury rectifiers at this point. What is... That might be what he's missing. For entertainment purposes only. Hit me up, Terrence. We got stuff to talk about. The mercury rectifiers is what you missing, cuz.
oh, it's peopling.
Whoa.
This is just peopling. This is just what occurs at 93 million miles away from the sun.
What do you think occurs after us?
Well, once we get pushed out further, what happens? We need nitrogen to expand to unwind into oxygen. But since when we get pushed further out, the nitrogen is so far out, so we have to go deeper underground to have the pressure conditions that was equal to us having 93 million miles away from the sun. The deeper underground we go, the less light we have. And as a result of that, skin begins to gray, eyes get bigger. All of those necessary things, the things that we see in aliens and all of that, ends up taking place.
But as the animal adapts to changing environment.
Changing pressure condition. It's peopling.
Whoa.
You didn't watch the Terrence Howard video that deals with the flower of life on the Joe Rogan podcast. Do not live under a rock. This could change everything, in my humble opinion, especially if you're in the spirituality space, but even more so if you're just in the technology sector or the idea sphere. This is such a revolutionary discussion, whether or not it is scientifically accurate, which I'm not here to say or debate or claim that it is, but I find it fascinating because it actually makes sense. It makes sense that there are no straight lines in nature. It makes sense that everything curves into itself. Everything is connected because it is all a part of the same thing, just at different frequencies. Or at least that's what I understood from the interview. I don't know about you. Let me know what you think. And I'm actually going to be tying this to the Garden of Eden, as well as the Book of Revelation and the message of Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna. We're going to be unpacking all of this because I believe this is the sacred mystery, the truth that is within us. And again, I say that as in the subjective truth of our ability to create. Once we understand these things and activate our chakra system, we can begin to create as the gods that we are. If you didn't watch the Terrence Howard video that deals...
You know, I respectfully disagree. I believe that it's a very interesting topic. But, you know, I can't see anyone claiming that we're gods creating the earth or a moon or, you know, creating an entire advanced, thriving ecosystem, you know. I'm getting hyped too off the video. Don't get me wrong, you know what I'm saying? But it's not getting me charged up like that. Where come on, y'all. Let's be real for a second. You know, like yes, we're on to something, but that ain't it. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you.
You like the Cat Williams episode? This episode is going to blow your mind too. Terrence Howard reinvents the periodic table and it makes so much sense. It's a long clip, but it's worth the watch.
You say rebuild the periodic table. What do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the periodic table they have now,
Let's see.
It looks like a box.
Image of it.
It looks like a straight box.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't show the relationship that between every element, there's two
All right, here's the periodic table.
You'll see hydrogen sitting all the way over there by itself, but they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E, 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicone, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt and it'll be 324 hertz. It's in that base. If you were to take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, their color, you can turn color back down based upon it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2, and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. I sent over Walter Russell's.
I was trying to get to that.
It's Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to what Mendeleev's periodic table. You'll compare Walter Russell's to it, and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding, and you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and
I'm not gonna lie, that new periodic table is important. We're gonna dive into it, man. Let me write it down. I believe that's very important. It could definitely hold some clues.
And I knew the
So you
relationship.
saw this in dreams?
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand. The first wrap, it's so tight. The very first wrap is so tight. That's the first one that Walter Russell did. But go back to the wiggly one. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex. But you'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium. They're all bonded. They're all sit as the middle point between two noble gases. So those things don't really exist. It's only one substance. Now, the problem is the first thing that we're able to perceive is hydrogen. That's the first visible element, because before it is too dense for us to perceive it. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But as you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone, because the carbon has two tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves, beryllium is contractive, boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. It gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4. So it's a double tone. Then nitrogen is minus 3, minus 3. Oxygen is minus 2. Fluorine is minus 1. Now, the balance of this, all of those are mates. Fluorine and lithium naturally mate. If you have lithium bonded with any other element, the moment that fluorine is introduced, it will break all bonds violently so it can bond with fluorine. Same thing with beryllium and oxygen. That's why it said, and what they've tried to keep from us, if you want to break water into its component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, all you have to do is introduce beryllium or the sound of beryllium. And oxygen will violently break away from any other thing, even hydrogen, to bond with that beryllium. And now you can have it just with the frequency of it. And since the hydrogen is smaller, hydrogen will, that waveform, you can send that up into one tube, the oxygen into another tube, without using electrolysis, without using heat.
What?
It was just through frequency. And the proof of it, if you go back up just a little bit higher, we know the relationship between sodium and chlorine.
All right, y'all. What I'm getting from this is with the hydrogen, if you use some type of beryllium frequency, if you use a beryllium frequency on hydrogen, you might be able to make some type of fuel, maybe like some type of hydrogen engine, maybe with off of frequency is what I'm getting at. This is interesting. Let me know in the comments below what you're getting from it.
They're equal and opposite mates. If you get out of the pool and you got chlorine and you're itching from the chlorine, all you have to do is get some real salt and rub that on your skin and it'll turn right into an oil. It naturally neutralizes each other. So everything has an equal and opposite mate. The lithium becomes sodium in the next octave, doubles the same exact tone, just doubled and wider. Wow. The sodium becomes potassium in the next octave, widens up. The reason that arsenic kills us is because our DNA has nitrogen and it has phosphorus in it, because nitrogen unwinds into the next octave right after silicon and becomes phosphorus. Our DNA has both of those in there, but it's going by tone. So the moment arsenic, which sits as a -3 on the next octave, the moment arsenic is introduced, the body thinks that, oh, this is my thing that I need. And it tries to wrap itself around the arsenic, but it causes the DNA to unravel because it's 4 times as large as that nitrogen was.
Wow.
And those other little elements, titanium, vanadium, chromium, magnesium, and iron, all of those aren't true elements. Those are isotopes. Those things, those first 3, are the full tones. They make full spheres. But now it becomes elliptical with titanium, vanadium, and chromium. And on the other side, when, like I said, if you wrap the rag around your hand, the first wrap, really tight. You can't get much out of it. Second wrap, you damn near can't see the difference of it. Third one, you start seeing hydrogen. The fourth wrap, you see carbon. I need a piece of paper or a rag, and I can show you that twist. But in between each one of them, by the time you get, nature does not allow us in the silicone octave for there to expand out. But there is the same titanium, vanadium, chromium, magnesium, and iron that exists between aluminum and silicone. But nature doesn't allow us to unravel that. But now with the wave conjugations, we couldn't do that before because we didn't know the angles of incidence that were necessary to open these things up. And you couldn't do that with the platonic solids because the platonic solids were averages and approximations. They, like I've said a number of times, you show me a real straight line in nature. If everything in the universe, everything is all motion expressed in waves, all waves were curved. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the greater the reaction, the greater the reaction, the greater the resistance, the greater the curvature. Because the universe is based off of equanimity, which Einstein left out in his theory of relativity, the balancing side of the gravity was caused by electric force. Electricity is always seeking a higher pressure condition. It spins northeast, is trying to get to the center of an area, the center of a cone. But the next electric wave is coming, so it gets pushed out, and as it's pushed out, it gets to the vortices. And that's some on those pieces, those vortices. Now, instead of it spinning northeasternly, centripetally, it's forced to spin centrifugally, and it spins south.
If you like the Cat Williams episode, this episode is going to blow your mind too. Terrence Howard
He said the part that Einstein left out. Is this man our modern day Einstein? Leave it in the comments below.
By now, you have probably seen or heard clips from the Terrence Howard interview on Joe Rogan podcast, and he's saying things that interested you, intrigued you, confused you, maybe even. I'm an astrophysicist, and perhaps together we can get to the bottom of some of these ideas. Preface that it was a super long podcast. I watched the whole thing because I'm not one to just jump out and start talking out of my ass about anything. I want to know exactly what I'm talking about and not take anything out of context. Only going to talk about the things that are directly related to my specialty, physics and astrophysics. Last thing, I took out some of the fluff in the clips and arranged them in a way that I thought made more sense. Don't want it to seem like I'm taking what he's saying out of context. To the best of my ability, stability, the context is intact.
Walter Russell talked about the fact that the sun gave birth to the earth, that it didn't coalesce from some field.
Here he's talking about planet formation, the way that planets form. And while we don't have the process down to a T, all of the different planet formation models basically start with a star that is contracting in the center, and it has this debris disk, this accretion disk. And in that accretion disk, planets form. So you can see these are all actual images that have been taken with a radio telescope array, ALMA. And you can see that these disks get rings, right? And it's not the rings that are important, it's the gaps in the rings. And our planet formation models talk about planets forming in those gaps. The gap is the planet orbiting around the star and eating up material in the disk. That's going to be gas, that's going to be dust. This is how planets form. And now we're going to hear an alternative theory.
That it didn't coalesce from some field. And the proof of this, do you guys know that the earth is drifting away from the sun?
Yeah, slightly.
It's 0.6 inches a year. Just add up linearly how long it would take the earth to go from the sun to 93 million miles away. It would take 9,820,800 million years for the earth to get here.
So what he said.
All right, y'all. That's where y'all know what's up, man. Y'all know that thing local than a mug, man. Y'all know that thing is a multi-dimensional nuclear capacitor, and it's the same size as the moon. For entertainment purposes, we're not going to talk about how the moon possibly was the first photograph ever took of the earth. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the firmament. We're not going to go there. What we do in these waters, we eat the meat and spit out the bones.
Do you think that the origin of hominids, that this is a naturally occurring thing that happens when a planet reaches a certain distance from its star in a Goldilocks zone with the proper materials?
Of course, the pressure conditions created. Look at what happens in the summer and, in the northern portion. You'll see apples occurring at this time. They'll say that the tree is appling. Well, what happens with the planets? Oh, it's peopling.
Whoa.
This is just peopling. This is just what occurs at 93 million miles away from the sun.
What do you think occurs after us?
Well, once we get pushed out further, what happens?
I can't. Yeah, man. Y'all know what's up.
Now, the flower of life, it's very, very old. The concept is very old. What was the origin of the concept?
It's the oldest symbol known to mankind. It's believed that it was Anki, the brother of Enlil, if you go by the Emerald
Sumerian
tablets.
text.
Yeah, the Sumerian text. Why don't you just take the pieces that make up the flower and put them together based on universal ratios? So this is the juxtapose of the mistake they made. I took 4 of those triangles, and wow. And you can scroll around. This is what happens when 4 bubbles meet. This is the negative space where they can't touch each other. This is hydrogen. And as I was saying, electricity is always trying to get to the center of that triangle, but it gets pushed out. And now you see it has 4 contractive poles, which is the electric poles. It has 4 contractive poles because electricity is seeking a higher pressure condition and forcing it in, where magnetism is seeking a lower pressure condition and spun out. So the vortices, those tips, that's the magnetic field. That's where they begin. But it has an equal attractor and an equal amount of repulsion. So if you go to what happens when 8 bubbles meet, they gave me the patents to that. I called that the tetrahedron. So
this is the negative space in between 8 bubbles.
8 bubbles. This is the negative space where 8 bubbles meet, and you can scroll around.
And this is ignored when they're concentrating on straight lines.
Completely, because this, if you look from the top, I haven't violated anything. It fits perfectly inside of there. This is the negative space where 8 bubbles meet, but you'll notice it has 8 contractive poles, but it only has 6 magnetic poles, 6 vortices, so it has a greater electrical potential than a repulsion. So maybe this is the strong nuclear force, and the previous one was the weak nuclear force. I called this the Huntian after my son. So I was like, what happens when 6 bubbles meet? Now you see that it has these huge bubbles, fast moving, but there's 6 strong spheres that's going around this, but the greater attractor has grabbed the 2 weaker attractors. And this looks just like a photon, and guess what? It has 30 poles. This looks like what happens in nature. So I was like, okay, so they gave me the patents to this, but you'll see that there's 6 unaccounted electrical poles to it. So I was like, what happens when 12 bubbles meet? Another stable structure that we basically see in nature, but there's 4 unaccounted electrical poles to it. 4 spin around it. You can count those 4. You'll see 1 at the bottom and 3 on those sides. This is the basis of crystallization, the laws of crystallization that formed. When I was like, what happens when 24 bubbles meet? This is the negative space. If you pull to a horizontal on it, this is a negative space where 24 bubbles meet. This is where you cannot distinguish this from the background because all of the electrical potential has been accounted for. This would be the Bose-Einstein condensate, where something becomes indistinguishable from the fabric of space itself, the final state of matter. And the proof of this, the platonic solids, they have a thing called discrete symmetry. You can put the cubes together, maybe you can put the dodecahedrons together, but you can't put all of them together. But you can take the wave conjugations right here, and they form supersymmetrical systems, where everything aligns.
Now, the flower of life, it's very, very old. The concept is very old. What was the origin of the concept?
It's the
One more time, man. What he said in the beginning, man. Don't tell me we in Anunnaki territory in Enlil. Oh my God. I can't do it. Another outlandish video, man. Y'all killing me.
Oldest symbol known to mankind. It's believed that it was Anki, the brother of Enlil. If you go,
y'all just can't leave him alone, can you? I don't even want to do it. All right, Anki. I can't stand y'all, man. Anki, where
it's
is
the
it at?
oldest symbol known to mankind. It's believed that it was Anki.
All right, Anki. And Enlil.
The brother of Enlil.
Goodness. Okay. We're going to have to dive into that. This flower of life. Top of a open of a pineal cone. This is a pineal cone. Right here, pineal cone. That is the top of it. The flower of life.
If you go by the Emerald
Sumerian
tablets.
text.
Yeah, the Sumerian text. Why don't you just take the pieces that make up the flower and put them together based on universal ratios? So this is the juxtapose of the mistake they made. I took 4 of those triangles. And
man, that is fascinating. Your thoughts below.
Hemoglobin and chlorophyll. And you're going to notice that the hemoglobin has the same exact combination of carbon and hydrogen that we have. The only difference they have is the center of theirs is magnesium and the center of ours is iron. That's the only difference. You put a cephalopod up there, it will be copper. The same interaction of so where does consciousness occur? Where does the sentient being? Is it just in the iron? Or is it magnesium deals with the pressure condition, like with a cephalopod, it has to have copper at its base because of the pressure condition. It's the same experience, just under a different temporal dimension. Hemoglobin and chlorophyll. And you're going to notice that the hemoglobin has the same exact combination of carbon and hydrogen that we have. The only difference they have is the center of theirs is magnesium and the center of ours is iron. That's the only difference. You put a cephalopod up there, it will be copper. The same interaction of so where does consciousness occur? Where does the sentient being, is it just in the iron? Or is it magnesium deals with the pressure condition, like with a cephalopod, it has to have copper at its base because of the pressure condition. The same experience, just under a different temporal dimension. Change the pressure condition, change the motion condition, you change the organism, it adapts. But it's the same living principle. There's no difference between us and the plants. And when people are chopping down and ripping things off just because they can't hear them scream, it's wrong. So TCOTLC.com, we put all the patents inside of the Center for Truth, Love, and Consciousness. That's what TCOTLC.com means, because I knew that I have a propensity to get angry and get emotional and could misuse this stuff. So we have a board of members that dictate how these things will be licensed out and how they're used. So it's not just on me.
So where do you think consciousness is coming from?
Everything is alive.
Everything is conscious.
Everything is, like, if you take it from the biblical thing, what part of the universe wasn't made from the creator? Did he pick up some other, if the creator is eternal?
So we just don't think of them as being alive because they don't move and they don't talk to us.
We don't speak their language.
We don't have the sensory ability to perceive their consciousness.
But we know, we've learned, like if you look at The Secret Life of Plants, they show that they'll take plants of the same mother and father and they'll seedlings and they'll watch the root growth, and because they are siblings, they are moderate in their root growth. But then they'll take the same species of plant but use a different seed from another parent and they're more aggressive in their root growth.
Wow, they're cooperative.
They're cooperative. Yes, when they're in the family. The tree, they'll take radioactive carbon or nitrogen and put it on the leaf of a mother tree, of a fern or of some kind or fir tree, and they will put isotope or radioactive identifier at its offspring, and you'll see that mother tree is, through the mycelia, is taking that nitrogen and giving it to its youngsters.
Yes.
That is a super gem. Through the mycelium is taking the nutrients and giving it to its youngsters. That is a gem.
If you know one thing about one thing, you know one thing about all things. Find the common factor and either multiply or divide. And that common factor happens to be hydrogen. If you know one thing about one thing, you know one thing about all things. Find the common factor and either multiply or divide. And that common factor happens to be hydrogen. Everything in the observable universe that we see is 99% hydrogen. Well, now we have the geometry of hydrogen. So now we can manipulate 99% of the universe. And there's nothing we can't accomplish. But they're still trying to make that money.
Yeah.
If you know one thing, you know the relationship between sodium and chlorine. They're equal and opposite mates. If you get out of the pool and you got chlorine and you're itching from the chlorine, all you have to do is get some real salt and rub that on your skin and it'll turn right into an oil. It naturally neutralizes each other. So everything has an equal and opposite mate.
Watch the interview with Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan. Go watch it.
Explain what it does? Explain, when you said flight, what do you mean?
Tangential flight.
What do you mean by that?
It means right now, fixed wing aircraft, you can go in 4 degrees of direction. They go up, down, some can go forwards and backwards and right to left. But this is able to spin around its own center of mass. Completely spin around its own center of mass, something people are able to do it by falling, but this is a sustained system that's able to go around. I sent that other video to you. But their ability, because this is the geometry of hydrogen, any bond that hydrogen can make, linchpin can make. And what they're basically doing is building a periodic table in front of you. If you play 4 of them coming together, it's 4 like 30-second videos. Work with them. And the sweet taste of victory. That's good. And the sweet taste of victory.
It do look good. I want some.
1 times 1 is 1.
To multiply means to do what? To make more, right?
Yes.
Increase in number?
Yes.
Multiply?
Yes.
How can 1 times 1 equaling 1 be part of the multiplication table? It fails to satisfy the term multiply. It doesn't multiply. Does it? What's an action times an action?
You got some weed.
No, I'm asking you. Honestly, I'm asking reason. Reason. I want you to reason.
I don't know.
What's an action times an action?
He not trying to hear that, bro. He not. I hear you, Terrence, but he ain't trying to hear it.
A reaction, right?
Okay.
Have you ever seen an action times an action without a reaction? Have you? No, because equanimity is the currency of the universe. There's always an action times an action having a reaction. So how can 1 times 1 equal 1? How can A times B just be A and not B? What happened to conservation
Terrence,
of
these
energy?
are late night conversations.
These
bro.
are no. These
Yeah,
are.
they are.
This is the beginning of our understanding. It should fit. What kind of calculator you got? What kind of phone you got?
It's an iPhone?
Okay, go to your calculator.
Whatever the new.
No, go to your
Okay.
calculator. Go to your calculator.
All right. Go to calculator.
Go to your calculator.
Yeah, I
you
got
do too. You got iPhone?
What are we doing?
I want both of y'all to do 2 separate things. I want to do the same thing to start with. Turn it to the side.
Okay.
All right. Now I want you to both hit the number 2. Did the whole calculator show up?
Hit number what?
Hit the number 2.
Number 2.
Go to the square root. It is the second column from the left, 3rd row. It'll have that squiggly
Yeah.
thing.
All right.
You
1.4.
1.414213
Yeah.
563373095.
Holy
now
crap.
I want you two to do 2 separate things now. 2 separate things. I want you to multiply it by 2, hit times 2, equal, don't you do it.
Okay.
And I want you to hit x to the 3rd. X to the 3rd, it's going to be... the
Times 3?
No, x to the 3rd.
Oh, X. Oh, okay. I see it.
X to the 3rd.
Yeah, I got you. All right. 1.1.
No, you didn't hit x to the 3rd.
Yes, I did.
If you hit x to the 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
So
I
go
did
back
not.
again.
Okay,
You
so
keep
now
yours where you are.
Yeah, I'm
2,
good.
2
square root,
square root.
and hit x to the 3rd.
All right, 2.82.
2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. The same value you got
Yeah.
by multiplying it by 2.
Yeah.
And he just cubed it. Divide it by 2 again. Both of y'all. Divide
it by 2.
No, divide by 2. Hit equal. Now, cube it again. Hit x to the 3rd.
Yeah.
You see that loop?
Yeah.
That's saying x cubed is equal to 2x, which is equal to x plus x. That's an unnatural equation. That's a mathematical fallacy. And that's the beginning of your math. That's how I invented tangential flight, because your math, someone programmed that lie in there and lied to you and everyone, and all your fundamentals are off.
1 times 1 is 1.
To multiply.
Hey, I'm going to my supervisor. I'm telling you, as soon as I get my check, I'm like, hey, 1 times 1 is 3. This ain't adding up. For entertainment purposes only.
Work with us.
How did you get started with all this?
I didn't come into this world the way everybody else does, I don't think. I used to think that everybody had the similar experience, but like if I asked you what was your first memory in life, what would it be?
I don't think I know.
My first memory was almost like when you're dreaming and you're falling and you hit the bottom and you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first memory, but I didn't wake up here. I was inside my mother's womb. and I was about maybe 6 months inside the womb. And I'm like, okay, don't forget I'm here. Okay. Don't forget. You go to sleep.
You know what I find real interesting about the situation? Why hasn't any astrophysicist, any chemist, any grand scholar challenged him in a debate yet? Where is everybody? What's wild is that he's actually coming in humbly. He's not coming in aggressively. He's not trying to, fight about it. He's actually trying to have a serious debate. But nobody has showed up yet. Not no Neil deGrasse, not no whoever else that was mentioned. All I gotta say about the situation is that people fear what they don't know. And another thing I gotta say about the situation is that a lot of people, a lot of visionaries, a lot of leaders that change the world are called crazy at first until shit starts unfolding. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know exactly everything that he was talking about because I got lost many times in that Joe Rogan interview. But things started clicking, things started making sense. And if it's for the greater good of humanity, you see when the thing started glitching and all of that? That always happens when a breakthrough is about to happen. But a lot of things are unfolding this year, and nobody has came up yet. Not no physicist, not no scientist of the grand scholar that has the PhDs and all of these degrees. Show up and go live, and let's see the debate. And let's see who wins.
They don't matter anymore. They've been lying to us for so long. Would we even believe them, even if they did? We ain't getting the whole story from Terrence or Joe, to be honest with you, for entertainment purposes only. I'm going to keep it a buck with you.
This received?
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like,
how is this received?
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, hey man, yeah, I'd love for you to come on my show, do my radio, do my TV thing. I would love that. I was like, yeah, but I've got something I want to introduce to you. And I sent him over a 36-page thing that had the wave conjugations in it, but I started it off with 1 × 1 = 2. He went in on my treatise, wrote, redlined everything. He attacked that I had talked about Walter Russell and Victor Schauberger and John Keeley and Tesla as the people that I looked up to. But then he started attacking, the 1 × 1 = 2.
How did he attack them?
He threw shit on he was like, well, Tesla stuff worked, but Tesla was never really respected and out there, and I guess he wanted me to support Bohr or Schwinger or Feynman or any of those people when he wrote his response to my paper. He said, if you have any other questions, you're going to have to see somebody else, and he wouldn't take my calls anymore. I was like, okay, so I wrote the book based off of those responses, and I reached out to another guy.
Very interesting that would be his take as a public educator, that he wouldn't want to talk to you anymore.
I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to walk away from this.
How is this received?
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like,
know what the single most alarming thing I could ever see with the naked eye was until I saw it. This is 1999. I'm on the Brooklyn Bridge at 2 o'clock in the morning. And Brooklyn Bridge is you're away from lights. It's still very lit, but you're away from lights as good as you can. I'm a city person. And I'm there, and I'm looking up, and I'm seeing this meteor shower. It's called the Leonid meteor shower. You see the streaks of light. They're shooting stars. It's beautiful. We're getting like 3 or 4 per minute. This is a good rate. Then I saw a new star in the sky. I said, I don't recognize that star. And it just got brighter and brighter and brighter. And then it disappeared. Then I saw a puff of smoke. And I said, whoa! So you know what just happened?
No.
You don't know what I just witnessed. It was a meteor that was headed straight towards me.
And then disintegrated.
And it disintegrated straight towards me. There was no streak. And I thought to myself, this is the final moment of my life. What? We are so accustomed to seeing streaks of light in the sky. And some of those are going to be headed straight for you. And they're not going to make a streak. They're just going to get brighter. When I realized a split second after that had happened, what I just witnessed, I freaked out.
It's the best way you could go.
I didn't know.
All right, man. Who else, Joe? What else Joe talking about, man? Uh-oh, Joe got your boy Billy on there now. Oh, let's go, y'all. Lock in, buckle up, sword and shield. It's gold farming time.
These tablets, what are they called again?
You're talking about the
That
Sumerian
depict this?
Sumerian Kings list.
Can you show me that, Jamie? I want to see what that looks like.
It's a giant.
So these tablets, what are they called again?
You're talking about the
That depict this?
Sumerian Kings list.
Can you show me that, Jamie? I want to see what that looks like.
It's a giant four-sided tablet located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England.
This is it right here?
That's it right there. Those are all four sides.
And how old is this?
This is, they're saying 6,000, but
Can you make it bigger, Jamie?
believe me, it's much older than that. This is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy over tens of thousands of years, in my opinion. But this text gives the reigns of kings in shars. S-H-A-R. A shar is 3,600 years. So one shar would be 3,600. See, 241,000 years of rule.
Whoa.
On that stone right there.
The Sumerian Kings list.
Yeah.
Now, if this is right, if this is all true, what a mind-blowing idea.
Yeah.
That humans have been around, that were engineered hundreds of thousands of years ago, and that this is the reason why there's this bizarre shift between lower primates and us. So this...
Y'all got me on these waters, man. No.
These like, what's the conventional explanations when people tried to dismiss what they knew in ancient Sumer?
Well, the conventional explanation is always going to the term mythology. They
Right.
throw mythology around, left and right to cover up the fact that they have no clue or idea. So they turn it into mythology so they can kind of say it's all fantasy and fairy tales, and this is how they express themselves or how they understood the universe. It's all mythology. It's all fake. But in reality, it's not all fake. These people left behind such detailed records and information. It's a time capsule of information on stone tablets for us today to be able to decipher, break down, and understand, and that's what we're here to do now.
When you look at these ancient languages like cuneiform, can you read that? Do you know how to read it?
Yeah, a small amount of it, yeah. Studying
How
it
does it
from
work?
books that I have bought right off of Amazon.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically you take a stick. It looks like a stick with a kind of a curved end, right? Almost sharpened. It's called a stylus. And then
Just like a stylus for an iPad.
Exactly, very similar,
Okay.
right? And then you
Like, what's the conventional explanations when people tried to
I'm not gonna lie, man. I like the dude Billy a lot. I like him. I just can't go with the whole, I believe the Naki are fallen angels. I believe there are gems to what he is saying. There's gems to what he's saying that possibly could have taken place with the fallen angels. If you can handle them being fallen angels and not having it on a million year timeline. That's just my personal take for entertainment purposes only. But I like the dude, honestly. I think this is an educated brother. I like how he speaks. He's a very good speaker, but I can't go for what he's saying. I get it, man. I get it. There's truth out there. It's hard to get the real truth. I get it, but this is not it. For entertainment purposes only, do your own research on everything.
dismiss what they knew in ancient Sumer?
Well, the conventional, the Great Pyramid is located at the center of land mass on Earth. Not the center of the Earth, the center of land mass. Now, the only way you can put the pyramid at the center of land mass is you have to have a polar orbiting satellite. If we were to do it today, a polar orbiting satellite that's orbiting this way, and as the Earth spins on its axis, you're taking swaths of data, and you're calculating the land.
The satellites won't work. We're not spinning. But please, we're still trying to find the ISS for entertainment purposes only.
The land At the center of the earth.
We definitely. Some people will tell you that there's no gravity, we're not spinning, and that satellites are a myth. And some people will tell you that they are still trying to find the ISS space station. That's just what some people will tell you, okay? For entertainment purposes only. Don't come for me.
Myth of Adapa, which means first man. The myth of Adapa, an ancient Sumerian text. It's a tablet. And in this tablet, you can buy the book Myth of Adapa on Amazon. You can read it for yourself, completely translated. And translated by scholars, by the way. And it's talking about the fact that according to the Anunnaki, human beings were created in a way that genetically we were supposed to become more superior than them. They didn't know this was going to happen. And Lil was angry at his brother Enki because Enki put a little extra in the sauce. Yeah, a little extra. And he said that the mysteries to unlock the secrets of the universe is hidden within our bodies, and that we ourselves can rise to be even higher than them. This was a major thing to be putting into text like this. Now, who sits around
How do they
and writes this?
That sounds insane.
Yeah.
How do they specifically describe that?
They describe it just like that. It says that human beings, or man, Adapa was created to be even higher than us. And that all the secrets of the universe, the mysteries, are within our body. And I believe that because when I started studying DNA, that took me into a whole DNA study. I discovered this scientist called George Church. And he created this ebook that he was able to take from a digital format, and he was able to download it onto 1 drop, 1 gram of DNA, a digital book. He converted it from AC's, T's, and G's into, from zeros and ones, He converted it from zeros and ones into AC's, T's, and G's, read, write, put it on the DNA. Then he said, wow, this is incredible. DNA can store information in a volume. Then he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's replicate this book. So he replicated the book 80 billion times on 1 gram of DNA. And this is not just a regular ebook. This book had graphics and images and everything else in it. So then he said, let's see if we can get it back. So he converted, created a read write again. He converted it from AC's, T's, and G's back to zeros and ones and uploaded it back to the server. So now he knows that DNA can upload and download information. Crazy.
Whoa.
So now they said, okay, well, how much data can be stored on 1 drop? Over 433 petabytes of data. A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes.
What an unfortunate name.
I know, right? I know, that's a crazy name. I was like, why'd y'all name it this? Petabyte. But anyway. Yeah, so they
insane.
said, now they discovered recently on holmium atoms, scientists have now written information, data onto an individual holmium atom. And they discovered that we can store information. They can read write directly onto the surface of an actual atom.
Oh my
Now, think about that for a second.
Oh my God.
So they're saying that the human body can store 13.5 billion years or roughly of data, which is roughly around the time they believe the universe probably exists. So that myth of Adapa text could be accurate. The secrets of the universe is probably encoded into our body because we're just recycled atoms.
Right. And then as we evolve technologically and biologically, we develop a higher and higher ability to access that information.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Man, it's getting real on these waters. I had to get up out of there. All right, take me back. The myth of Adapa. That sounds, all right, that sounds great. But we are in an enclosed ecosystem. So as far as the universe being this vast, I just can't go. And what I want to hope to achieve, to read people's minds, I don't know, fly in the air, no, I don't want none of that stuff. It's like, what do you hope to unlock? Spidey senses, super fast reflexes. You can do all that stuff with training. I don't know. Am I missing the point here? This is no salvation in sight for none of this. Am I missing the point here? You know what I'm saying? You know, our years got took in the Bible for a reason, you know? So I gotta keep it real with y'all, man. So I gotta ask now, who is Enki? Who is Enlil? Joe, Billy, Terrence, for all I know, they're all in on it together. But I'm still gonna get on these waters. Alright, we're gonna type in Enlil. Who is Lil? Who do you think created Enlil and Enki? Huh? Somebody created them, or wherever they up on. I believe they fallen angels. Enlil, Enki, yes. I believe those are fallen angels. Which one specifically, I couldn't tell you. But give me a couple months and I'll be able to tell you which one specifically they were.
The Descent of Inanna, Enki in the World Order. Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and others. Among those familiar with these stories, it's not uncommon to find ideas like, if it weren't for Enki, we wouldn't even exist, or Enlil is the enemy of humanity. Some recent books present the idea that Enki might be Jesus himself, who at some point, by some advanced method, incarnated as a man in the person of Jesus to save us, and then returned to his original body. This is a very interesting theory, although evidence of Jesus' existence is still a hotly debated topic. In the Hebrew scriptures, Enlil is the true God, while Enki is the serpent of Eden. And in other cultures, the roles are reversed. Now, there are many divergent currents of ideas and thoughts, which all can lead into misinterpretations between one another. So what exactly is said about them? The Atrahasis. The Atrahasis is the Akkadian Babylonian epic which tells of the Great Flood, which was sent by the gods to destroy all human life. Written down in the mid-17th century BCE, the Atrahasis can be dated to the reign of the Babylonian king Hammurabi's great-grandson Ammi-Saduqa, 1646 to 1626 BCE. Though the tale itself is considered much older, passed down through oral transmission. The Sumerian flood story, known as the Eridu Genesis, which tells the same story, is certainly older, composed circa 2300 BCE, and Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which also relates the tale of the Great Flood, is even older than that. These and other sources present the following tale. Enlil is the son of Anu, with his queen consort Antu, who was also his half-sister. Therefore, Enlil was the legal successor of Anu to the throne of Nibiru by the law of the seed. Enki, on the other hand, was also the son of Anu, but with a concubine who was not related to Anu. Although Enki was the firstborn of Anu, he would only have the right to succession to the throne of Nibiru through the law of succession. Now we know that this issue of seed law and succession law was the cause of many conflicts, both in previous generations that are still in Nibiru, as well as between the two half-brothers, and also between their children and grandchildren already here on Earth. The monarchical regime, custom in Nibiru and adopted here on Earth, is one of the legacies that the Anunnaki left us, and we know that from our own history, the Game of Thrones has always been a reason for rivalries, murders, and betrayals, which is not very different from our current system, where politicians fight each other using all kinds of dirty and fraudulent schemes to stay in power. Nothing new. Anyway, leaving aside the question of succession to the throne, which is a delicate matter, the story of the two brothers seems to depict moments of sincere fraternization and authentic affection, in addition to mutual respect. Let's look at the two characters more closely. Enki is portrayed as a brilliant scientist. He had great knowledge and a restless, inquisitive mind. He was a liberal thinker, and he sometimes forgot ethics a little bit in favor of science. Creator of Homo sapiens and proud of his achievement in genetic engineering, he was attached to his creation. Enlil was a military man, and as such had a sense of organization and a love for rules, which often drove him to extreme severity. He had a great responsibility and a great weight on his shoulders, for his was the Earth mission, and he owed Nibiru a full accounting. Both had a woman who won their brothers' hearts, Ninerzog, their half-sister. She had been betrothed to Enki, but was in love with Enlil. There was a trade-off in the story, but each one went about their own business as they could, and no conflict ensued. Enlil was faithful to his wife, and as far as is known, he had children only with her. Now this is questionable, as some sources document the son that he had with Ninerzog, the Ninurta. Enki jumped about 1,000,000 times and spread children all around the world. After the lab-created Homo sapiens, he upgraded humanity in the most libertine way possible. First, he spawned Cro-Magnon man.
This is out there, y'all. I'm just gonna say that. This is out there. Out there, out there, out there, outlandishly out there.
Seducing 2 Neanderthal women. Then he generated modern man by seducing a married Cro-Magnon woman. Noah, as Lamech suspected, seemed to be the son of the gods and not his. When the conflicts between the two brothers seemed to have given way to maturity, it was their children and grandchildren who started it all over again. At this moment, what's portrayed are 2 fathers of families trying to avoid conflicts and at the same time taking sides here and there in favor of their offspring. In fact, they seem to be portrayed as beings from another world who colonized the Earth and are just as human as we are, subject to the same flaws as us. Sometimes it was Enlil who had advantage over Enki, and other times it was reversed. Enlil took advantage of the flood to wipe out terrestrial humans, whom he never really wanted to come into being. At the same time, he did a necessary cleaning on the planet, as there were not only humans created by Enki, but all kinds of aberrations created in the laboratory. Enki, in turn, saved humanity through Ziusudra, the biblical Noah, but not on his own initiative, as he was prevented by an oath of silence, but by the intervention of the mysterious Galzu. His initiative or not, Enki saved modern man, that is, us. When Enlil realized Enki's betrayal, he flew at his neck, and when Enki said, "Noah is my son," Enlil stopped the aggression. Enlil, realizing in this survival of the terrestrial human seed, the will of the creator of all, blessed Noah and did not plan our end again. The stories conclude with the Anunnaki going on to establish.
Where are they even getting this text from? I know this isn't in the Apocrypha. Guys, let me know where that. If one of you guys are fans of this, let me know what they're. You know, I'm just trying to see what gem I can get from this. You know, because Terrence mentioned it. You know, they got your boy Billy on there now, so it's like I'm trying to pick up the pieces and find out some type of correlation to this. Find some type of gem. You know, but it looks like the only gem we can pull from the Anunnaki is that they could have possibly been the fallen, or they were, you know, the fallen angels, and they did the sacred flower that we see on these cathedrals, fallen angel technology, you know. And we're in an enclosed ecosystem, you know. Nobody loves space more than me. I would love to be in a spaceship flying around, looking at all the different planets. Ooh, wee, look at this one, you know, but it's just not there. You know, we got a lot of exploring on Earth to do still. So that's where the new frontier is, honestly.
Human civilization and teaching mankind everything they know today. We tend to deify one and demonize the other, and this is a result of our perception of history and how we absorb it, often influenced by other impressions. These two brothers don't represent good and evil. They represent ourselves in all respects. What we hate in one and love in the other is our own reflection in the mirror. After all, we are made in their image. Enlil teaches us action. Enki teaches us patience. Enlil teaches us the art of war. Enki teaches us the art of pleasure. Enlil teaches us discipline. Enki teaches us contemplation. Enlil teaches us to be rational. Enki teaches us to be dreamers. Enlil teaches us responsibility. Enki teaches us to be lighthearted. Enlil teaches us faithfulness. Enki teaches us to break the rules. Enlil teaches us to forgive. Enki teaches us to overcome. There is no devil and no angel in this story.
Enki, Enlil, and Anu were not only colleagues but also members of a divine family. Enki and Enlil were half-brothers, with different mothers but sharing the same father, Anu. This familial connection added depth to their relationships, often influencing the course of divine events. The clash of powers. Despite their familial ties, Enki and Enlil frequently clashed over matters of human destiny and divine authority. Enki, as the creator of humanity, favored compassion and nurturing, while Enlil emphasized strict adherence to divine laws.
Approximately 425,000 years in the past, Enlil and Enki, beings from the planet Nibiru, made their way to Earth, their sibling rivalry fueling their quest for dominion over our planet. Around 300,000 years ago, the emergence of Homo sapiens took place. Enki, driven by a vision of advancement, established the Brotherhood of the Snake, a clandestine society with a focus on wisdom. This group aimed to elevate the recently fashioned humans by enhancing their DNA for future spiritual and intellectual growth, a process that commenced roughly 49,000 years ago. Sadly, Enlil subverted this endeavor, co-opting the progress and prompting Enki to adopt a more concealed approach through secret societies. Conversely, Enlil was singularly concerned with creating a subservient workforce, resulting in the creation of Homo sapiens, who were to toil in gold mines and attend to the Anunnaki deities, human-like beings from other planets. His agenda led him to repeatedly attempt their annihilation, culminating in a massive deluge event around 11,000 years ago. The aftermath of these events saw the emergence of two distinct factions: the Enkiites, advocating for advancement and wisdom, and the Enlilites, endorsing control and domination.
All right, y'all. Somebody's definitely lying. You know, somebody. Who's telling the truth? We all know a flood's happened, but it's up to you to do the research and see who's telling the truth. Me, I'm riding with the Messiah. All praises to the Most High. You know, when someone says something, we have to analyze everything. We just can't disregard. When someone is trying to tell you something, we just can't disregard everything. You got to actually hear what they say. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Let them lay it all out. Examine everything. And then we can break it down line upon line, precept upon precept. So that's why I'm not afraid to go in these dark waters. You know, I'm not afraid. And if you're still here on these waters with me, hey, salute. Thank you for being on these waters. I'm not done. We still got a lot more work to do.
I don't believe we're even from Earth, to be quite honest with you. Our cycadic rhythm doesn't even match Earth's rotation on its axis. We're slightly off. It's actually better tuned to Mars' orbit on its axis than
What do
it
you
is
mean?
Earth.
How's that work?
The circadian rhythm of a human body, the wake and sleep cycle, is actually more tuned to Mars' rotation on its own axis. A Mars day versus an Earth day, which is pretty weird that we aren't synced to our own planet after all these thousands,
Is that
maybe
the
hundreds
same
of
as our
thousands of years.
circadian
Rhythm, right?
How do they calculate it's more tuned to Mars? Like, how does that work?
Well, geneticists and scientists discovered that our perfect wake and sleep cycle is more tuned to Mars' rotation on its axis, which is about 23 and something minute hours, and versus Earth being 24 hours. Every culture that I've talked to indigenously around the planet all say they were seeded on this planet by Pleiadians or other beings, star brothers in various different places. So
like
it's pretty interesting. Like the Dogons, the Nomo, the Hopi, and the Lakota tribe, the star brothers. The Aboriginal elders say that they were seeded here by Pleiadians. All of a sudden, why is everybody having the same story that we were brought here? I don't believe we're even from Earth, to be quite honest with you. Our cycadic rhythm.
There's some people that say Mars is a giant hoax made up in Canada. even though the indigenous people might have some validity in their story, some people are saying that the Mars is a giant hoax, just made up in dry places in Canada with the contrast turned up.
You are not going to want to miss this video. So, well, I think I found Mars, and it's not 140 million miles away in a space vacuum. Well, for starts, this is what they say Mars' surface looks like. So I decided to search Devon Island in my search engine, and like, the surface is kind of the same. And you're not going to believe this is one of the first pictures that popped up. So I decided to pull up Google Earth and check out this place called Devon Island, and you're not gonna believe what I found. So you could do this yourself. Just go to Google Earth, Devon Island. Just gonna pull this up. Hit Street View. All right. Quite a few buildings there. Alright. Scoping it out. That looks like a NASA symbol right there. That four-wheeler. Huh. Weird. Whoa! NASA? What in the... Alright. Mars 1. Moon 1. What in the... Well, guys, Mars is not very far. Wow. Like, seriously, guys. Like, all these rocks are in the same place. That's a little weird if you ask me, but what do y'all think about this? Y'all let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, follow me, and share this with someone. And like always, God bless. You are not gonna want to miss this video.
Oh, Devon's Island, huh? Well, let's see what else we can find. We're from Mars. It's, our body ain't synced to Devon's Island, you mean? Let's type it in. Devon's Island.
Landed a rover on Mars 199 million miles away? You sure about that? You're sure they didn't just send a crew to Devon Island, Canada and take some photos and do some editing? Some editing to give it that red planet tint? Some editing that others before me have matched up identically with Devon Island and photos they claim to be Mars? Photos so identical that they just have to be identical? And then what they do is they release photos like this to make you think, oh my goodness, there could be aliens or other life on Mars, and that takes the attention away from the fact that the photos aren't really of Mars. And then they got you because now you think they're covering up aliens instead of covering up the fact that Mars isn't a planet. Because if you look at what they claim to be a planet with your own eyes through an actual telescope or a P1000 camera, you see something much different. Because here's what NASA shows, and with a short video.
The Hubble Space Telescope just captured this new image of Mars in May 2016 as Earth and Mars approached opposition, when both planets are on the same side of the...
But if you decide to research yourself and explore what thousands of people see instead of the one government agency, you see Mars looks an awful lot like a pool light shimmering in water.
All right, guys. You guys want to see what Mars looks like? That's Mars. We're not from that. I believe this, if I had to guess, I don't even want to guess, man, because I'm going to sound crazy, but it could be an angel. It could be a window through the firmament, like a literal window into the firmament, small. But that's literally what Mars is, zoomed in. Yeah. So it's hard to say that's where we're from, you know. This is the epicenter. Everything is happening what we're standing on. When you go outside and shut your door and stand on grass barefooted, you are literally standing on the same ground that everyone is talking about. Everything happened here. Not at the precise location, but on the same realm. Do you feel what I'm trying to say? This is the epicenter. Everything goes down here. We are on the platform. This is it. Y'all. And I be looking up at that blue sky just like, man, when is that zipper gonna, you know? And they open up, hey, that's for another video. But hey, I be looking up at that blue sky like, man, is this the day that sky gonna get ripped open, man? It's real. It is real in the field. Yeah. I wasn't even gonna do this video, but I'm like, man, I have to. Man, they are all in cahoots. I get it. They all working together. I had to do this video.
Nothing like a planet. And then you dig even more, and you find plenty of evidence that NASA was at Devon Island.
Place that is barren.
Vast, intimidating.
You're rambling through areas that are quite dangerous. It's isolated, remote, and rocky, just like the surface of Mars is. I think someday there will be humans walking on Mars, definitely. My guess is that the first people who land on Mars will say something to the effect, oh wow, this looks just like Devon Island.
So you can go on believing the mainstream narrative all you want, or you can go out and seek truth and do real learning and seek knowledge, because learning is knowledge and belief is the enemy of knowledge. The choice is up to you. You just got to make that decision. Are you happy believing, or would you rather know? Because what I know is that this was all for entertainment.
Yeah, for entertainment. This is all for entertainment purposes only, guys. We've been to Mars. You know, we're going there. We got the rover for entertainment purposes only, guys. You know, this whole video, entertainment purposes only. Just kidding. But yeah, y'all, it's. I didn't want to do it, but I felt like I had to, man. This is where it's all going down, you know. So when you saying Enlil and you know whatever the other dude's name is, brother, sister, or brother and sister, whatever, you know, they probably got switched with a fallen angel, you know. And I ain't gonna lie, it's a cool story, you know, when they said, oh, they put a little bit extra in the DNA, you know, hey, that sounds cool. Oh, you can activate and become a god yourself and fly around like Black Adam. Hey, if that's what you want to do, that's cool, man. But hey, it's something a little bit, it's real out here. Salvation is possible. Not too late to repent.
So check this out, guys. So they're saying that the moon is 238,000 miles away, and they're also saying that Mars is 199 million miles away, and yet we have a Mars rover on Mars giving us videos and pictures. But in case you forgot, Mars is also spinning around the sun like we are. Let me get this straight. We can get to this, which is 199 million miles away, but simply can't get back to this, which is only 0.2 million miles away. Oh, that's right. NASA and their astronauts saying that we can't get back to the moon because we lost the technology.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back.
But yet, we can get to this, let me remind you, which is 199 million miles away. But it just keeps getting worse and worse. They're also saying the moon is tidally locked to the Earth, which we will never get to see the other side of the moon. It doesn't make sense because the theory of gravity they use. But let's just say what they're saying is true, that the moon is a dusty rock in outer space and you can physically land on it. And why can't we land a device on it and we can all watch Earth spin? Because it is the same face we see every single day and every single night. And they're saying that we will never get to see the other side of the moon. So it only makes sense that we could land something on it and we could all watch Earth spin. But it's super crazy of them to say that we can get to this, which is 199 million miles away, that we have a Mars rover on Mars giving us videos and pictures, but simply can't get back to this. If you ask me, Mars might be a lot closer than we might think. Come on, guys. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this one in the comments. Don't forget to like, follow me, and share this. Let's get this out to the people. And like always, God bless. So check this.
That is by Drew Truth. Shout out to Drew Truth for dropping some truth. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Is that where Mars is? You know, are they just saying Enlil and whatever the other dude's name is to try and play us? Or do you believe this really happened? Am I missing something? Let me know.
Take a moment, shall we, to salute Canada for their marvelous achievements in space exploration, all the way to Mars. We salute you, Canada. Let's all take a
Britain doesn't even match Earth's rotation on its axis. We're slightly off. It's actually better tuned to Mars' orbit.
So these tablets, what are they called again?
You're talking about the Sumerian Kings list.
Can you show me that, Jamie? I want to see what that looks like.
It's a giant four-sided tablet located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England.
This is it right here?
That's it right there. Those are all four sides.
And how old is this?
This is, they're saying 6,000, but...
Can you make it bigger, Jamie?
Believe me, it's much older than that. This is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy over tens of thousands of years, in my opinion. But this text gives the reigns of kings in Shars. S-H-A-R. A Shar is 3,600 years. So one Shar would be 3,600. 241,000 years of rule.
Whoa.
On that stone right there.
The Sumerian Kings list.
Yeah.
Now, if this is right, if this is all true, what a mind-blowing idea.
Yeah.
That humans have been around, that were engineered hundreds of thousands of years ago, and that this is the reason why there's this bizarre shift between lower primates and us. So these tablets, what are they called again?
According to the Anunnaki, human beings were created in a way that genetically we were supposed to become more superior than them. They didn't know this was going to happen. Enlil was angry at his brother Enki because Enki put a little extra in the sauce. And he said that the mysteries to unlock the secrets of the universe is hidden within our bodies, and that we ourselves can rise to be even higher than them. This was a major thing to be putting into text like this. And I believe that because when I started studying DNA, that took me into a whole DNA study. I discovered this scientist called George Church, and he created this ebook.
Like, what's the conventional explanations when people tried to dismiss what they knew in ancient Sumer?
Well, the Great Pyramid is located at the center of landmass on Earth. Not the myth of Adapa, which means first man. The myth of Adapa, an ancient Sumerian text. It's a tablet. And in this tablet, you can buy the book Myth of Adapa on Amazon. You can read it for yourself, completely translated. But you know what's interesting? If you want to say, oh, human beings could be aliens, well, actually, every person on this planet is an alien. Even our planet itself is an alien. Scientists just discovered something interesting. I've never talked about this yet on the podcast, and you guys can look this up. So our Milky Way galaxy is pretty interesting because it's absorbing another galaxy at this exact moment called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Not the Sagittarius constellation. That's something totally different. We are absorbing the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy at this exact moment. People thought for all these decades, looking, or even hundreds of years, looking up in the night sky, seeing that swath of stars going across, oh, that's the Milky Way. Guess what? We've been wrong the whole time. This is now being taught in universities in astrophysics. So what we're looking at, you're looking at the absorption or the merging of the Sagittarius with the Milky Way galaxy. And the exact point where it merges and drops into the Milky Way is right where our solar system is located, which would explain the rogue planets that we know that are out there. There's millions of rogue planets that have no sun, that are just floating free around. There's planets in...
Because the natural disasters knock us back down if we're about to destroy everything. Knock us back down to some much more primitive version of ourselves, and then we have to rebuild society again over thousands of years, which to the universe is a blink of an eye.
That's a blink of an eye. You're right. That's exactly what happened in the Emerald Tablets. You know, 36,000 years ago, though, he arrives in this place called the land of Kem, ancient Kemet, before it was known as Egypt. His father sent him on a mission to rebuild civilization back up to a high level, meaning that it already was at a high level prior to this flood situation. And he says he gets into the great ship of the master and he takes off into the sky until the earth disappears. And then he goes to the plane appointed and he sees beneath him the children of the land of Kem, and he descends down. He doesn't sail in, he descends down. And when the ship lands, he opens his doors and he comes out with his crew. And he says the barbarians came at him to attack him with cudgels and spears. He says, I raised my staff and sent out a ray of vibrations, stopping him still as fragments of stone of the mountain. So he had a stun gun. He had a weapon that was, not lethal, non-lethal weapon that can freeze you in your tracks. And we have something just like that now in the military called the active denial system. They can send a beam at a crowd coming to attack and make them stop still right in their tracks. They can make you feel like you're on fire, make you feel like you want to vomit. They can even put voices in your head. They can make you be in extreme pain. It's called the active denial system. So he's talking about technology back then that we have right now.
Dude, go look up that.
It can deter individuals on a military perimeter all the way up to a riotous crowd, all without permanent harm.
It only penetrates 1/64 of an inch of your skin. Goes very shallow into where your nerve receptors are.
They can't take the pain.
There's no, no permanent injury caused by it.
So what does it do to them?
Send a frequency, a beam of frequency, just like Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets. I put this in my book because it's important.
Any of the guests volunteer to test out its effectiveness and safety, including the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps.
Wow, he said fuck it. He said fuck it.
Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Most described it as feeling like a hot oven or grill being opened up.
It is something that...
Wow!
Yeah. So that's what he used on them.
Because the natural disasters knock us back down if we're about to destroy.
What if he flipped the story? When instead of him Thoth flying on the ship, he flew away from the pyramid so he couldn't see it. I don't know. I'm trying to gather what gems I can, y'all. I'm doing my best on these waters. Y'all know my paradigm, man. It's hard. It's hard to take in certain stuff when you have a certain paradigm, but it's important to lay out everything on the table because you might miss something.
Heard about this before? I didn't know there was another planet out there.
Listen, when they flew by it a few years ago, the lights were on. They sent a probe out there.
What?
The lights were on. And so they tried to say it was ice particles glistening in the sunlight. So when they got to the dark side, guess what? The lights were on the dark side. So they couldn't use the ice particle explanation anymore. So they just said, we don't know what it is.
What? Ceres' small size means that even at its brightest, it's too dim to be seen by the naked eye except under extremely dark skies. Heard about this before? I didn't know there was another planet out there.
Listen, when they flew by it a few years ago, the lights were on.
Intelligent life that exists in the universe beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Terrence Howard? Do you know his theory about how planets are created? That it's just things ejecting from the sun over billions and billions of years, and that there's a Goldilocks zone where you can create life.
Right.
And that's where the people are.
Yeah.
And then as this Goldilocks zone gets, you have to be super technologically proficient in order to control your environment to the extent that you no longer require the sun in order to keep you alive. That kind of makes sense if Nibiru's out there past Pluto.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes
Shout out
sense
to
that
Terrence Howard, because I just talked to him a couple hours ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, so we were talking about
That
wave
dude
conjugations and everything.
Fucked me up for like 3 days. I left this podcast for 3 days. I was like, God damn. First of all, how the fuck is he so smart? Like, how would you ever imagine that a dude who's an actor on a television show or in a movie is that smart?
Right,
like freaky smart.
Right.
But his theory about the creation of planets, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a lot
we
of sense.
watch stuff fly off the sun all the time. And if this matter over time would coalesce and become a planet.
Yeah, it creates an accretion disk, and everything in space creates accretion disks. So once that
What is that word? Accretion disk?
Accretion, yeah,
What does that
accretion
mean?
disk. So once you have a certain amount of mass in space, it instantaneously, on its own, wants to create this circular, like the shape of our Milky Way galaxy, wants to start circling and swerving around itself. And then as it does that, it begins to create friction. As that friction increases, the matter begins to collapse in towards each other, all right, based on its own energy, and then it forms a ball. And that then builds and attracts more mass until it builds into a moon or a planet or whatever. You know.
What do you do when you encounter flat Earth people?
Oh.
Intelligent life that exists in the universe beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
Run.
So things like teleportation are going to be possible in the near future. We've already teleported, I think, a couple of particles from Earth to the space station, right? But what's stopping us from teleporting a human being? Understanding and knowing the location of every atom and the rotation and spin rate of every atom. That's a lot of information, a lot of storage space. Now with DNA hard drives, the storage space problem goes away. We'll be able to teleport biological beings or objects, big objects, into space or wherever we want on the planet.
Like Star Trek.
Like Star Trek. So
what?
Things like teleportation are going to be possible in the near future. We've already teleported, I think, a couple of particles from Earth to the space station, right? But what's stopping us from teleporting a human being? Understanding and knowing the location of every atom and the rotation and spin rate of every atom. That's a lot of information, a lot of storage space. Now with DNA hard drives, the storage space problem goes away. We'll be able to teleport biological beings or objects, big objects, into space or wherever we want on the planet.
Like Star Trek.
Like Star Trek. So things like
That is actually insane. Wow. We need that, man. I like cars. I like driving my cars, man. But hey, time is valuable. If I can zoom, right and teleport, I need it.
Mohenjo-Daro, Indus Valley, the buildings turned to glass. The sand turned to glass, and the bodies are still laying in the street right now today, holding hands. Never been scavenged by animals. So
wait a minute, where is this?
Mohenjo-Daro.
Are there photos that we can look at?
Oh yeah, look it up. Mohenjo-Daro, Indus Valley, dead bodies still laying in the street thousands of years later, And
nobody
guess what?
they just lay there. No
They
one's
just lay
covered
there.
them up.
Nobody's covered them up. Yeah, when you put a
What?
Geiger counter over them, higher than background level radiation. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. And if
But
you-
aren't stones higher than background level radiation?
some stones are, stones are, especially like diorite and crystal granite. But
The first thing I'm immediately thinking is Sodom and Gomorrah. Or could this possibly be where Lot's wife was?
these bodies, these are just bones. How come they're higher than background level
I
radiation?
can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
Why haven't I ever heard of this?
Mohen Gendaro, Mohen. There you go.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is evidence of a nuclear war or nuclear
Go
type
back
of
to
a
the
war.
other that one there. That one's insane.
Yeah, there's bodies that are sitting on the edge of steps next to their own buildings that they lived in. The building is turned to glass. That's 3,000 plus degree temperature weapons fire.
So there's a bunch of people that seem to die all at once, just scattered around.
Yeah,
And what's the conventional explanation for how these people died?
they have no idea. They have zero idea. The only thing that you
That
can,
was just a couple, Jamie. Go to the other, just the Mohenjo-daro mythical massacre.
Yeah.
So did they think it's a massacre? Is there any?
Look
Yeah,
at
look,
that
the guy's
body.
just laying
Just
there.
laying there. And that building, those stones are vitrified, which means 3,000 plus degree temperature.
Oh shit!
What kind of, what could have caused that level of temperature, an energetic release?
Well, it could have been a low atmosphere asteroid.
It could have been.
I
It
mean,
could have
just
been.
like
that's possible.
Tunguska.
Yeah, it could have been a lot, but then their bones would have been splattered apart and broken up into pieces.
Good call.
Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley.
What? That is freaky. Mohenjo-daro, did y'all know about this? Is that in India? Mohenjo-daro. We need to type this in. Mohenjo-daro.
If you haven't heard of the faceless city of Mohenjo-daro, if you haven't heard of the faceless city of Mohenjo-daro, then you're about to. Also known as the Mound of Dead Men, it is situated in modern-day Pakistan and was founded about 2,500 BCE. The city had a sophisticated sewage system, clever layout, and 700 freshwater wells scattered throughout. It was far ahead of its time. It even housed a 900 square foot pool that was dubbed the Great Bath and fed by the Indus River. What is strange about Mohenjo-daro is its total lack of religious or state buildings, which is in stark contrast to other civilizations at the time. There are no tombs or churches. Even more peculiar is what caused the city's demise. We currently don't know. It could have been the Indus changing course, drought, or something far darker. 2015, dry core drilling was carried out, revealing the site is much larger than originally thought. There are still more secrets buried at Mohenjo-daro. If you know anything else about this bizarre city, comment below.
They said they had no churches or nothing. Okay, you guys want to act like you guys don't know what's up? Okay, beam them. That's what it looks like. What happened?
Recent evidence suggests the possibility of a nuclear war in ancient times. The discovery of a layer of radioactive ash in the body of the city's inhabitants with signs of radiation sickness in Mohenjo-daro, an ancient city in Pakistan, and similar evidence in Harappa have led some researchers to suggest that the destruction may have been caused by a nuclear weapon. However, some scientists and historians remain skeptical, arguing that the evidence may be the result of natural disasters, such as volcanic eruptions. The discovery of trinitite, a type of glass formed when sand is melted by the intense heat of a nuclear blast, at a site in Rajasthan, India, provides further support for the possibility of ancient nuclear war, but when and by whom remains a mystery. Recent evidence suggests the possibility of a
Hey man, if you guys watch my videos, you remember on that King Charles video, the Irish megalithic structures they were hiding from something. You know, they were hiding from something. You know, those were shelters. Those giant structures. So it's getting real, man. The pieces are lining up. You know, that's all you can do. That's all we do on these waters. We try to gather as much data as we can and connect the dots and try to pick up some type of truth. That's what we do on these waters, y'all. If you're still riding with me, hit that like and subscribe button, man. We're going to dig off a little bit more into the Anunnaki, but I just want to say thank you for jumping on this video, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I might be going live today. It is recording this. This is 6/7 recording this. It might be going live 6/7 if you're watching this. Strong possibility. You know, I love y'all. God bless. Have a good one. Keep your head on a what? Straight swivel. Peace out.
Thank you to all the Dark Waters 9 members. You play a huge role, and we just want to say thank you for everything.